Welcome back to our program, Marriage and Relationships. I'm Asikere, and tonight we are talking about the importance of marriage. And before the break, Mr. John Nganga, we are talking about why is commitment important in marriage. Maybe you can tell us further on that.
I want to, first of all, because I started explaining what commitment is.
Yeah.
Commitment is simply two people coming together to promise one another. Number two, doing so before a witness. In the book of James, you are saying when you have something important, call the elders, who are the pastors. But in addition to that, it has to be legally accepted. That means when I'm talking about there is a commitment, it means the two of you are not being forced. It is not right to call it a commitment when the girl does not want you and the parents force her onto you. So it has to be two people voluntarily coming together. Number two, it has to be two people who allow a man of God to come and pray over them so that there is a witness of a human being, but also a witness of God, because that's why a man of God is coming together. But then in addition to that, the government of the day recognizes it as a marriage. That's what we mean by commitment. So if you are staying together and you cannot remember a time when a man of God prayed over you, you are still have a marriage, but it doesn't come to my level of commitment. I would still encourage you, those of you who are in a come we stay marriage, I want to encourage you, call a man of God so that you make a recommitment vows in God's presence. Not vows you made under the bed, but vows made publicly, so that you do it in prayer and clearly conscious about what actually happened. I would really want to encourage. There is a big issue. There's a study that has been done about the difference between people that are committed and the ones that are cohabiting. 3 major differences were found. One, it was found people that have a legal commitment ended up with the less number of sexually transmitted diseases. Because the cohabiting person understands that this person of mine is not fully committed. One of these days they could drop me. So they always have a commitment, but they are also aware that somebody else could be available. One day I could be thrown out. So they discovered that in a lot of comparing, and it was random sampling, the people that are committed with marriage and the ones that are cohabiting, it was discovered that they had other sexual partners, many of them. And that does not mean there are none of the properly married people who don't end up outside the marriage. But the bigger number are the ones who are cohabiting. So that tells you, even if the two of you have agreed on the bed sheet, you are committed to one another. This research and data is showing that clearly there is trouble with that kind of marriage. So if you want to avoid HIV, if you want to avoid sexually transmitted diseases, let the man first of all commit himself. He should not touch you until he is committing long term, because he understands once he's committed long term, there are legal implications and there are spiritual implications with the matter. The second thing they found is that the people that are not cohabiting but are committed have better stress levels. Somehow, the person who is married has somebody who is able to help them. They may be having stress at work, but they have somebody who can listen to them and is committed to help them. The one who is cohabiting still has somebody to talk to, but they are not sure about their commitment long term. So you discover the stress levels are different when you are young. And then it was found that the number of people it was a longitudinal study, between the time they started studying those couples and the time they were stopping, the number of people who had died were more in the cohabiting group than the ones that are committed. And so it comes to a conclusion, the people in marriage live longer than the ones in cohabiting. So you can see clearly, you can only be cohabiting at your own risk. That is beside God's word. Even sense tells you you should enter into a proper commitment or pull out of that. So we are saying that, and that we wanted to spend the time explaining. Commitment is not promising under the bed. Commitment is not promising in the maze garden. Commitment is, like I said, calling witnesses, your relatives, asking a man of God to represent God, so that you are doing it in the presence of God. Number 3, having a legal commitment. Number 4, for life. For all. Do you realize that we have not talked about dowry? Because some people in some cultures, it's a woman to pay the dowry. In other cultures, it's a man to pay the dowry. That is part of being released by your relatives to come. But it's not part of the marriage. It's a pre-marriage rather than part of the marriage. You can be properly wedded, whether the dowry was paid or dowry was not paid. The only thing is, since cultures are different, the people respect your marriage better if you follow their rules than if you don't follow their rules. But it's in a biblical sense, the Bible does not require any dowry for a good marriage. And that does not mean that's wrong to go with a gift to your relatives. But it's not part of, do not start assuming that your marriage will be better because dowry was paid. Because you see, even if dowry is paid, if you are cohabiting, he knows very well he can just leave you. All he abandoned is a few thousand shillings he gave your parents. And you land with another rich woman who can even give you more than he lost by marrying you. The real issue that will help your marriage is to make a commitment in the presence of God. And so I thought we need to clarify the benefits of that commitment, not just biblically, but even in social terms, it's actually going to be of help. Even most churches will expect you to make a commitment so that you can set a good example. If you are living with somebody and you are not yet married, people see you as immoral. So you are setting a good example, a bad example for the youth. And so that's why he said you need to make a commitment, because it not only has biblical and spiritual benefits, it also has social, and it also has economic benefits. How do you cohabit with somebody, then buy a house together? No, he will not. He might throw you out after you have put your money there. So before you can invest in a house together, you want him to sign a commitment. And that's what you're calling a wedding. So what happens in many people cohabiting is that each one has his stream of income. Each one has his own investment. They lose what economists call economies of scale. That when you put your money together, two individuals earning different money, put their money together, they are able to invest and get a higher return on investment than if they were not. But how are you going to mix your money when there are no legal controls? That's why a wedding, a written commitment, helps people to invest together, to grow together financially. So there are also economic benefits. So there are social benefit, spiritual benefit, economic benefit, all out of making that commitment.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Nganga. Tonight you're talking about the importance of marriage, and our SMS number is 0706 100 100. We are also on our social media platforms, that is Facebook, Champions TV Kenya, Twitter at Champions TV Kenya. Mr. John Nganga, since you've told us and explained to us why commitment is so important in marriage, I'd like to know what are some of the benefits in marriage?
Now, marriage itself, what are the benefits?
Yeah.
In a few months, it will be 40 years since that wedding day in 1979. And so it's good to have a reflection, 40-year reflection. What have been the benefits? Let me tell you the immediate one. Once you are married, all the girls that were running to you after you drop off. Boys can have a real rough time with the girls. Every time you talk to a sister, she start imagining you want to marry her. But the day you are married, all those problems. And you know, I sympathize with young people. You can find a boy with 3 or 4 girls running after him. And the day he's married, that drops off. And the same thing I've never been a girl, but I assume it's the same thing with the girls. This boy is approaching, the other one is approaching, the other one is approaching, this one is dropping you like a hot potato, the other one wants to pick you. Now, that confusion, when you get married and everybody recognizes your relationship, you have a lot of peace of mind. Marriage brings that confusion to an end. And I think that's one of the benefits I got. But number 2, which is a benefit, as soon as we are now married, we formed a ministry team. Whereas before, I was still preaching, but there is a certain type of preaching where someone knows you are just a boy. When you become a couple, there are ministries that couples can do that individuals cannot really do. Nobody will trust you. For example, when we got married and we had children, my wife started a Bible club in our house. We just told our children to invite their friends. And you need to understand that no neighbor will allow their children to come to a bachelor's house. So if you start a Bible club, the children be warned, don't go to that house. Once you are married, there is now possible to do a ministry that's a couples, what you call a couple-based ministry. And we, at least when our children were young, my wife had a big ministry. Every Saturday afternoon, the place was full of children, seated, packed. And I believe that was only possible because she was married, because we were together. The neighbors saw us as a couple. And I can go on and on. So when you get married, number 1, it makes the confusion of singlehood and unsureness go. Number 2, you create a ministry team. But the third one, and very important, is that you have a psychological support. I now have one person whom I can share my failures, my frustrations, and not fear they are going to tell others, or they are going to laugh at me, because we are together as a team. My success is our success. And that is something that is a real benefit if you truly have a biblical Christian-based marriage.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Enganga, for coming tonight. Thank you so much for your time. We've come to the end of our program tonight. I'm your host, Mercy Kiare, and tonight we've been talking about the importance of marriage. See you next time, same place. Have a blessed night.